But there is one episode from Youngji's No Prepare My Alcohol Diary that we very adamantly don't like, which
Dislike.
is going to be like one of the most controversial opinions out there. And if you do want to hear our controversial opinions one day and we feel up to it, we might just do it. This is MIA 2K Podcast, and we are your ticket from Miami to Seoul. We are your pilots, Kathy and Laura, two fun-seeking girls with obsessive fandom tendencies, taking you on a ride through the Hallyu wave from our perspective as opinionated, grown Latina fans from Miami.
Before we close the cabin doors, make sure you're following us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you like to watch, our in-flight podcast video is available on YouTube and Spotify.
Once we reach our cruising altitude, we'll be serving one thing and one thing only, piping hot tea. We're ready to fly into today's topic with our hot and sunny takes.
So fasten your seatbelts, sit back, relax, and prepare for takeoff.
Hi guys!
Hey.
Today we're going to be covering a topic that brings together our favorite things, which are Korean culture and K-pop. So what are we covering, you ask? We're going to cover Korean variety shows. And every time I say cover, take a shot, because why not?
I wish you well.
So without further ado, let's jump into the world of Korean variety shows.
So before we begin really going in and going ham, what exactly are Korean variety shows?
Sorry, for anybody not watching, I was doing interpretive dance to whatever Laura was saying, and she cracked. My bad. I was trying to be entertaining because, variety shows. Hey.
It was beautiful. Made me tear up and everything. So Korean variety shows, I think, are a little bit different of what we're kind of used to.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, over there, anything goes. They are composed of quizzes, skits, performances, games, stunts, literally anything and everything you can think of. There's probably a variety show for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're a huge part of Korean television.
Yeah.
And so basically, they've kind of like evolved with Korean society. So there's people that have done a lot of studies, and it has shown like the shift in Korean culture and like what they deem important in that specific time, right? So at the very beginning, they were just basically talent shows because that was all they were allowed to be. In the 90s and 2000s, they were talk shows, like more serious, more like going into your deep feelings and talking about it. And then towards the early 2010s, it became a mixture of everything, like what we know right now and what we see. They're more fun-based, more entertaining, more lighthearted. They're also very much used as promotional marketing for K-pop comebacks.
Yeah.
Like right now, every time I hear that there's a group doing a comeback, I expect that they will go in at least a couple of shows, and I look forward to them. So
Agreed. Yeah, I think for us as kind of the newer generation of K-poppies from 2020 forward, variety shows really kind of help you feel like you're getting to know the idol a little bit more.
Mhm.
It feels like you're getting to know their genuine selves, quote unquote. But it's just like a different fun way to kind of get a meme or just like see something new happening and something that's specific to this era. Like there's always something that will be associated with whatever the comeback is, and it tends to happen during variety shows aside from whatever happens on the stage. So it's definitely become part of our daily enjoyment for sure.
It keeps the idols in the minds of the audiences
Correct.
all the time.
Correct.
And so you can't forget about them because, hey, No Sé Quiéncito is not doing this show, and No Sé Quiéncito is doing this show. And like, you can't forget it. You can't get away from it either. So
yeah, agreed.
Even like for Koreans, even those that aren't into K-pop will get K-pop idols shoved down their throat through variety shows.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that sounds like a fun time. So Basically, we're just gonna start talking about old variety shows, or what we would consider old school variety shows. And basically what that is just the typical variety shows that are on cable or network TV.
Mm-hmm.
They usually have a running time of 80 to 95 minutes. And they're what I guess normal TV is, in the sense that they are seasons and they are like set times when they come out in different networks.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the examples that we as K-poppies are pretty aware of are Running Man, which aired or first aired in 2010. It airs weekly on Sundays, and originally it was like an urban action variety, sort of like Amazing Race, but it has since shifted to like a series of games.
Another really notable variety show that is super big still, even though it's been around for at this point almost 10 years, is Knowing Bros. It's also known by a couple of other names, but that's the main one that they go by. It first aired in 2015. It airs weekly on Saturdays. And the concept is that the hosts are high school students. Mind you, a lot of these hosts are in their 40s at this point. So it's hilarious. And it shows. Like, it's not like, the people that are 40 and it doesn't show. For them, it shows. Except for maybe like Heechul, but still, we know he's 40. So they're high school students. And then the guests are transfer students who come to introduce themselves and show their talents. There are many segments that they kind of switch around with the show with every episode, but their permanent ones are called Entrance Application and Guess About Me. One fun note about Guess About Me, I've seen that segment so many times, and every time I'm mind
Same.
blown because the hosts have to guess something about the transfer student, but the transfer student gives them like nothing to go on. So they start guessing random shit. And then the person that is like the transfer student, the idol that is being interviewed, is like close, but not quite, right? And then we get to the final answer, and it wasn't close at all to what the people, the hosts were saying. It's so funny to me. There's been like one time that it was guessed correctly, and the rest of the time, because like again, they have nothing to go on. It's like literally me showing up to Sábado Gigante and being like, I don't know, Don Francisco, guess something about me. And this man has never seen me a day in his life. And he just has to start guessing things. And
but
he can't.
but that's the whole, like, I guess comedy aspect of it. Like these
Sure.
people, or like the host, have like a really, like, they have chispas, so they can come up with these ludicrous stories on the spot that make absolutely no sense, but you're like, okay, that's kind of funny.
Right.
Like,
No, I
okay,
agree with that. But that's not what's funny to me. What's funny is the person saying close, close,
close.
but you were nowhere near in the same country as this other person. That's what's funny to me. So that's just Korean culture and being polite and all of that. But it's just, it never like fails to make me laugh.
And actually, before we move on, Knowing Bros and Running Man, their host, for the most part, tend to not be conventionally attractive people. And I was reading like a little article that says that the reason why that works is because it allows them to make fun of themselves and to act silly without having to worry about their image, which is
Mhm.
kind of like fucked up, but also I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Seeing that idols, anytime like they want to do something human, they like remind themselves, like, "Hey, remember you're an idol." So I
Yeah.
guess like in Korea, if you're not good looking, you can get away with doing human things because that's just how the world goes over there. I don't know.
Another one that became really popular during the pandemic and actually started, and I don't want to call it died because it could like come back, but
Right.
ended
For now.
um for now, is Six Sense. And it's basically two truths and one lie. And then the teams, or the participants, have to guess the lie by using their like sixth sense.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit more complicated, like all Korean variety shows do, but that's kind of like the gist of it.
I really enjoyed a couple of episodes of that show because of Jessie, which I'm guessing it's like why it ended because she was such a big part of it.
Yeah.
And Jesuk and Miju and everybody who was involved in it, I think they're really strong personalities, which is why the show works so well.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, Jesse was like done with entertainment, so that might be why like it ended for a little bit. But hopefully it
Probably.
comes back at some point.
Hopefully.
After Six Sense, I have to talk about New Journey to the West. So for me, like not being a Korean person, being obsessed with the show is so funny because like I didn't even know this existed maybe like a year and a half ago, and now I'm like I worship the ground that Na PD walks on. So Na PD is this producer dude who is just so good. He's like really enjoyable, and he unlike other like he's not his name or his title is producer, but unlike what you would imagine a producer to be behind the camera, he's actually in front of the camera the entire time because he
Okay.
also MCs, but he's not billed as an MC. So he's just very like, dressed as like a producer. Like there's no frills about him. And the biggest thing that he does is whenever they have like a question and answer thing, if you don't answer the question correctly within 3 seconds, he says, dang, but like with this violence and aggression and this satisfaction that comes from within, where he's so excited that you're wrong because that means that he gets to keep more money for more shows. So anyway, obsessed with him, and I watch literally all the content that he does. So New Journey to the West is a show that he from the beginning started producing. He's the chief producer of that show. It first aired in 2015. There's been 8 seasons so far. There's this whole lore about how each cast member is dressed as a certain character and kind of acts like them, and then they travel on a mission to find mystical Dragon Balls. They must complete a task in order to receive Dragon Balls, and if they do, they get their wishes that they asked for at the beginning of the show. So, like, if they ask for a year supply of like Korean meat, they'll get it if they win the Dragon Ball, right? So, why am I bringing it up right now? Because the format of the show is so successful because of just how out of the box their games are. Like the games that they come up with are pretty impossible for contestants to win, which is what makes the show as riveting as it is. So what they did was they brought the format, like dumbed it down because traveling around the world with like entire groups of idols is not possible. So they made it condensed for like TV and for idol groups. They did it with BTS, like specific episodes for them. And then they started doing like company wide family days with YG, with SM, with Hybe. And those are some of the highest watched variety show content in the past couple of years just because of how good the format is. Again, not PD, I worship the ground that man walks on. And I really
They're
like
really
that.
good.
All those episodes are like cured my depression. I swear. It's amazing.
They are really, really good. Another one that is very, very popular in Korea is Amazing Saturday. It has other names, but I think most people internationally know it as Amazing Saturday.
Right.
It first aired in 2018. It goes on weekly on Saturdays.
What a concept. Amazing Saturday on a Saturday. Wow. Wow. The creativity. I'm mind blown.
the the whole premise is a market from a city is chosen for each episode, and the prize is food from that market. Teams play games, usually music based, like guess the lyrics or guess the song from like a short snippet to be able to enjoy the foods. And each episode has like or costume themes,
Yeah.
and the hosts range from mukbangers to idols to like actors and rappers. It's like a whole bunch of people together.
And then my perfect, amazing bias from Shiny Key is on the show, like as a permanent staple because he's perfect. So
And he is very popular.
he is. And he's great because, like, a lot of one of the challenges they do is like, if you can do the choreo of a song, and he knows every girl group choreo that has ever been created in
Literally.
the entire existence of K-pop. So he's just freaking amazing. People just like watch him in awe. Like, how do you know that song? That song hasn't even been released, and he knows it. It's crazy. After Amazing Saturday, we have to talk about I Live Alone. So, I Live Alone first aired in 2013. It airs weekly on Fridays. And the whole premise of it is that they show you footage that is supposed to be completely unscripted and real from selected Rainbow Club members and their everyday lives, both in and out of their homes. The thing is, how they sold the show and how they position it on their website is that there are about 5 million singles in South Korea, and about one third of South Korean entertainers are not in a relationship. So this
Or
show is meant to show exactly, yeah, that's the tea. That's the actual tea. This show is meant to show like how single celebrities live. And I think it's become like a comfort, reliable, like security blanket for South Koreans in a way, because they're like, if this hot piece of ass that is talented and perfect is eating like rice and kimbap and kimchi and whatever at 3 a.m. by themselves at home, I'm fine. I think that's kind of like where the appeal is.
Mm,
And so I've seen a couple of episodes. I've seen like Key's episodes, I've seen Hwasa's episodes, I've seen Jesse's episodes, and I've seen a couple of other people. I think Code Kunst also. Oh, and Honey J, the dancer, which is really funny because I'm like, after I live alone and I'm so single, and look at me, pregnant AF gets married out of nowhere. Love that for her. Love that for her. My sister in Christ. And yeah, the show is just really funny because again, it's just like another way for them to peddle this delusion that all these people are single and like don't live with anyone. And the other funny part of it is Jessie was on an interview show recently. I think it was on Bam's house that she said it.
Yeah, it was.
And he was like, "Oh, do you talk to yourself when you're home alone?" And she's like, "No, bitch, I did it for the cameras. You think I'm gonna be here like, oh, what should I eat now? What am I gonna wear?" So like that's why I was like putting in quotation marks at the beginning, like the whole unscripted thing, because obviously people play it up for the camera.
Right.
Recently also I saw a Ji Hyo's episode, which was really, really cute. She's insane. I love her. Definitely my bias. But yeah, so that's I Live Alone.
I haven't watched like a complete episode, but I have seen like snippets here and there.
Yeah.
And my favorite visual of the show is Kai in his living room
Oh,
with his hair
yeah.
like this, like everywhere. Like no products to keep it looking nice and silky.
Nada.
It's just like standing up because it is bleach, it is bad, it needs a tratamiento. And
Right.
his glasses that look like the end of like the bottom of a bottle, like thick ass, delicious looking things. And I just that's the image that will forever be in my brain of
Agreed.
I Live Alone.
Agreed.
Also, Kai single. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Sure.
Sure.
Let's go with that.
Anyway.
And then finally, another show that has been going on for a very long time is Weekly Idol. It first aired in 2011. It goes on weekly on Wednesdays, and each episode features an idol guest where they like play games. They have like their own set games, but
Mm-hmm.
each episode is different. So they have like a set amount of games that they have to play, and then
Yeah.
each episode picks randomly or not randomly. I'm guessing depending on the idol guest.
Right.
Some of the games are like random play dance where they have to dance at twice the speed, and so it's that kind of stuff. A show. It's mostly aimed
Morley. That's a new one.
aimed at school kids coming out of like
Yeah.
their school, even though Korean students don't come out of their school until like
This is one of the
you know what
most like highly produced shows in the sense of like they interview the idols in advance
I mean.
and they really use those notes to like run the entire show.
Yes.
And also, this isn't one of those shows that is actually really controversial because in the early days, they used to have comedians run it. And like Laura said earlier, they're comedians who are not that good looking and who are kind of savage and they're supposed to poke fun at themselves. But this show in particular, the comedians turn the self deprecation to the idols. And so fans, which again, Laura's saying it's like high school kids or school kids that are like very young and stuff, do not like that their idols are being fucked with and
Right.
being treated poorly or whatever. So they ended up switching out the host eventually. And now it's hosted by other idols who are much more kind and understand the idol life. So they don't poke that type of fun at the idols because they were
Right.
fucked up. Like they would call them out on like not being the visual member and things like that. So it was really
Mean spirited.
thank you, mean spirited. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad about that change in the
Yeah.
Weekly Idol universe.
I've recently saw an episode. Now I remember why I saw the episode, because my kids were on it.
Oh, of
Boy Next
course.
Door. And currently the hosts are Anquan. I'm definitely mispronouncing his name. From B2B,
Right.
and Miju. And if you've seen Miju, she's
Off the rails.
irreverente. Like, she's like, you know who came to my head?
What?
That only the Hispanic millennials will.
Not Niurka Marcos, right? Oh my God. Well, the thing is, I think Jesse's more like Niurka Marcos, but yeah, sure. Miju
But
also.
in that vein, right? And
Sure.
if you see her in this like hosting gig, oh my god, she's the cutest thing. She's soft spoken. She is like the epitome of an idol. And I'm like, girl, who are you trying to kid?
They're paying her good to keep her mouth shut
Oh my
because,
goodness, so much money. Cause
oh, girl,
in the episode with Boy Next Door, she was wearing short overalls, which are called what? What was it? That you sent me a TikTok one time about like the jean short overalls,
did
and you're
I?
like, oh my god, this is what the Gen Z are calling these. Well, she's wearing jean short overalls, or yeah, pigtails, and like a cute little shirt underneath, and I'm like,
Miju, girl, get your money, get your bag,
we like her.
get your bag. So now that we talked about some of the old school shows that are not necessarily old school, because all of these
Yeah,
again came out in the past few years after 2010, but that's what's considered like traditional media almost, or traditional
right.
variety shows. So then now we're going to talk about idol based variety shows, because it seems like for a number of reasons, the idol companies decided to stop sending some groups to these variety shows because of the
Mm,
treatment, because of whatever. And instead, they decided to produce their own variety shows that were in house by their trusted staff and put those shows out.
right.
And they have gained so much popularity and notoriety, and they're one of the fan favorites types of content at this point. So some of those idol shows that we have today are Run BTS, To Do, which is from TXT, Wanties, which is from ATEEZ, Gose, Going 17 from 17, EXO Ladder, and there's a million more shows that I'm not
Yeah.
naming just because we'd be here all day. But those are some of the ones that we've enjoyed and that we know a little bit more about. So why do these variety shows work? There's three main reasons, in my opinion, as a variety show connoisseur, or like from the idol
Mm,
variety, because I have watched the shit out of these shows, let me tell
yeah.
you. And
I
I
would
have a
add
story about that later. Go ahead.
I would actually add a fourth to your three,
Mm.
but I can add it till the end and you'll see what I mean.
Sure. So, one of the reasons why this works, or the first reason, in my opinion, is that the idols feel safe.
That
So,
makes sense.
when they're shooting within their company with their staff that they are used to working with and just themselves, and they don't have to play it up for someone else, or they don't have to work up the nerves of like, I'm gonna show up to this show and I have to be funny and I have to be like as funny as a comedian and I have to bounce back. They're more relaxed, and it just the comedy ensues on its own, and it's not like
Right.
as hardly sought out. Like, they're just funny together, they're fun, they're comfortable, so it just works out, and they're more authentic.
Yeah.
And so us as fans get kind of like a little bit of a even deeper inside view into who they are, and we feel like we know them, so it
Right.
just kind of grabs us. The second reason why this works is because the members commit, like, there's no tomorrow, to be
Mm,
entertaining and to show different sides from who they are on stage. Sometimes they're not even trying to show a side different from the stage, but they just are different people on stage than who they are
right.
in real life. Like, for example, J Hope is one of the best performers to ever live, one of the best to ever do it. On stage, that man can like do amazing, incredible things. As a variety show member, he is as useful as a pea and raspberry. Like, he's
Mm,
just, that's not his strength. So it just shows a completely different side, and it's very endearing and it's very funny and it's very cute. 17 are
Oh my
known
God.
for, like, turning up the entertaining factor to the max. Like, I'm sure that the conversations they have after the shows are done is like, "Bro, fuck you. That was funny, but fuck you. Like, don't talk to me for the next 3 weeks." Because they will do anything to be entertaining. And again, they like the companies invest a lot in these shows. Like the idols are in full hair and makeup. They are fully like dressed to the nines, or unless they're doing like a funny episode where they're waking up in the middle of,
Mhm.
the night or whatever. But for the most part, there's a lot of investment that goes into making sure that this is well manicured and appropriate for the audiences. So yeah, there's a lot of competitiveness, a lot of strategy, a lot of backstabbing, and it's just there's gonna be a lot of entertainment. And then the third reason why I think these shows work so well is because the editors in South Korea are simply superior. Like, I need everyone who works in TV in America to go spend a good 6 months in South Korea to learn how these people do it. Because the editors, the narrators, whatever, like, it took me a while to get used to Korean TV formatting and editing because,
Yeah.
they play the same moment from different angles without you needing to watch it in, multiple times. They add a lot of the narration on the bottom to like make sure that you're feeling what they want you to feel. But at the same time, in these shows, the editors kind of become almost like family with the members too. Like they're very close. And so like a lot of the memes and a lot of the lore of like between the fandom and the idols gets used for these shows. So it
Mhm.
just feels like extra real. And if the fans call one of the members like a bunny or whatever, the editors can put the member in like a bunny emoji costume situation digitally, and it's very very endearing, and it's just really
Yeah.
well done. So I cannot praise South Korean variety show editors enough. Also, from what we hear, these things get done very quickly. Like they have very short turnaround times.
Yeah.
So even more praise to them for being able to do what they do in such a short amount of time.
And that kind of is a really good segue into what I would consider the fourth reason why it works is that the companies are able to completely control the narrative surrounding their idols. So, like we were saying earlier about some of the hosts of the more conventional shows being conventionally unattractive, and because of that, they can act silly because the shows are completely produced and controlled by the company, the idols have a sense of they can just let go because they know that if it's something that the company doesn't want to be shown or they don't want to show,
Right.
it will get edited out. So
Yeah.
that's also why they're able to be more free and more themselves because they
Yeah.
know that if anything were to happen during the recording that isn't going to be considered
Lie.
appropriate,
Yeah.
they'll just edit it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, my favorite things, not really favorite, I fucking hate it. But also, it was kind of funny when I first started watching content, is when they're wearing like crop tops or like the shirt untucks and you see like a little bit of skin. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, a fucking like emoji pops out of nowhere. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I
Right.
guess we're
Yeah.
supposed to pretend they don't have belly buttons, but whatever.
Right. Yeah, the tapes are safe in the
Yeah.
company
Yeah.
buildings. Yeah. So I mentioned earlier I was going to talk about how I got into variety content at the beginning. So what had happened was Laura, again, we've talked about this at length throughout the 4 seasons that we've been on this podcast. She was the one that found K-pop, K-dramas, everything. She tried to introduce me, and I was very unaware of what was going on. Laura likes to deep dive and like find everything about something and like whatever. I see one thing and I'm entertained and like I'm done. So at some point she showed me like a design for a shirt that she had made because she likes to design things. That's why we have a merch shop now. And the shirt that she had designed said Run BTS kind of in the same design as Run DMC. And I was like, what the fuck is Run BTS? I had been like at this point, maybe 3 months, not even into like K-pop and BTS, just like regular, just video content on YouTube, basically
Right.
like compilations, whatever. But I didn't know what Run BTS was. So she's like, oh, it's this variety show that BTS has on V Live. And I'm like, what's V Live? And she's like, oh, girl. So at that point, I downloaded V Live. I downloaded Weavers. I didn't have a job at this point because I had quit my job because I had like a lot of health issues, and I was like, this is my time to be a fucking sloth in bed all day. And so I think I got through all of Run BTS in about 3 weeks. which at that point was about
True story.
130 something episodes.
True story.
So I was watching maybe like 10 episodes a day because they're kind of half an hour for the most part. Like
Yeah.
the first few are like 10 minutes.
Right.
They're very, very short. And like the very first trailer episode is like literally 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, it was really easy to get through those first ones. And then like as they went on, they started getting a little bit longer. Then they started doing like multi-part episodes and all these things. So I was sucked in. And that's how you get to feel like the members. Like when I was done with Brown BTS, I was like, okay, I know everything about their lives. I'm definitely part of their family now. Like this is real. I'm not the Lulu. Like, it really does make you kind of just I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like they really know what they're doing because again, even though we know we're being marketed to, and I literally work in marketing, I still fall for this shit.
It's
Kind
so
of.
easy.
It's very easy. And so at this point, I've watched all of Run BTS and all of TXT's To Do. I started watching Going 17, but I leave it more for like flights and stuff like that. So I haven't gone anywhere in a while. So I haven't watched like the rest of the episodes. So I'm gonna catch up with Going 17 at some point. But those are the shows that I've watched like the most of, and I've watched a few other episodes of a few other shows. If you're interested in my take on which are the top 10 best Run BTS episodes, I wrote a blog about it, and you can find it in the link in the description below, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. But just be warned, a lot of like I said, top 10, but a lot of these are like four-parters. So really, there's a lot more than 10 episodes here, just so you know.
But guys, she's a connoisseur, so I believe
Hey,
it. Whatever she recommends, I believe it.
I mean,
The
I took the
amount,
time. I took the
the
time.
amount of stuff you watched. Honestly, connoisseur.
And the amount of times that I watched it, because a lot of it, it wasn't just a
Mm.
one-time watch.
Personally, even though I was the one that got Cassie into into the variety shows, I get tired of watching them. Like I get tired of literally everything in my life, and that's why I'm a multi because I cannot focus on one thing and one
Right,
thing only.
right.
So I just have to be in like a certain mindset to watch them. And like I get actually like physically and emotionally tired because of the amount of like editing and amount of like reading that you have to do. Cause not only do you
Yeah.
have to read the like captions or the subtitles, but also like what they're supposed to be doing. And then you have to read and also watch them. And so it just gets like overwhelming for me. So I just have to be in a certain mindset, and I haven't been in that mindset for a long time. Like I personally know that I miss a lot of jokes, but honestly, I don't think I need to know everything in order to consider myself a fan or like a super fan. So
Right.
I'm okay with it. Plus, in this day and age, you will eventually run into the good parts of the episode on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and IG Reels. Like you will eventually see them
Yeah.
because people love to make little short videos and post them and repost them and do their own edits. So eventually, if it's not through social media, Kathy will fill me in. So
And
it
by
works.
eventually, I think you mean like same day. Because at this
Oh
point, I
yeah.
remember when like the last few episodes that when I was watching Run BTS in real time, like if
Yeah.
I didn't watch it on Tuesday at 8 a.m. when it came out, I was
Yeah.
gonna be spoiled throughout the day
It's
because
true. It's true.
everybody posts right away. Like all the good parts are posted right away on social media. So if you don't like to have the content spoiled, not that I mean, depending on the show and depending on what they're doing in that episode, because if it's like a mafia episode, you will
Oof.
really get spoiled and you'll
Are
be
really
pissed
good.
off. Sometimes it's not that serious, but still, like I actually don't like to consume it via social media, like shorts. I like
Mm.
to watch the entire thing. I do get FOMO when I don't watch like a full episode. So in this sense, Laura and I are extremely different,
Very different.
and it just works.
So I think that's a great segue into what we would now consider new wave variety shows because idol based or idol produced variety shows are part of the new wave variety shows.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the new wave variety shows find a home in YouTube or on YouTube. Their running time really depends on the show. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and a half, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It just really depends on who's producing the show.
Yeah.
Since most millennials and MZ consume content on YouTube, that's kind of why we think there was that shift of putting a lot of effort into the YouTube shows, aside from like your normal network and cable television
Hmm.
programs. So some of the most notable programs, and I think every single K-poppy out there has watched at least one episode or like all of them. One of them is Youngji's No Prepare, My Alcohol Diary. I don't watch the idol ones, but I think I've watched most of her episodes.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so good.
I think this is probably the most watched show out of
Mm.
all of the ones in this list because Youngji is who Youngji is.
Mm.
She's the one who makes the show good. And the fact that she was a fan and is a fan, I
Yeah.
think that's what people really like. That she's one of us. Like it doesn't matter how famous she is, how many shows she wins, how talented she is on stage, and all the things. She is all of those things. She's a queen. She was born to perform and amazing, but she was first and foremost a fan. And so we just all kind of live our fantasies and our best lives vicariously through her. And I think that's what makes the show successful. Plus alcohol, really.
Right. And because she is who she is, she makes all of her guests feel comfortable
Yeah.
because she's already extravagant and so out of the box. Literally, whatever the guests do will never be as much as what she does.
Right.
So I think that becomes a big part of why all the guests come out feeling pretty comfortable and also alcohol.
Really, it all comes down to alcohol 100%. If not, go watch the episode with Hoshi in it. You'll see.
Oh my God. She did one episode with DK and Joshua,
Oh my
and
God.
like Joshua like gives her a chocolate milk and like opens it up for her and puts it
Yeah.
down, and she's like, you can't do this because if you do this, in my head I'm already marrying you and having grandkids. Like
Yeah.
that's us.
Yeah.
Literally.
Literally, yes. And he like
Us.
immediately closes the milk and he's like, okay, stop right now. Stop, stop, stop. It's so funny. It's like the whole like chaos ensues that many people wish that they could have on their shows and like claim to have on their shows. Youngji actually makes it happen. It's great. It's freaking
And
wonderful.
sometimes they go on the show just to go on the show. Like there are no promotions,
Oh
there are
yeah.
no comebacks. It's just because they want to go and they request to appear and they're able to appear. Like literally that's it. I
Yeah.
remember Youngwon from Monster X just showed up because he could
Yeah.
and wanted to, and that was
People
it.
wanted to see like his tolerance and they were just like asking for him in the comments and they made it happen, which was amazing. But there is one episode from Young G's No Prepare My Alcohol Diary that we very adamantly don't like,
Just
which
like
is going to be like one of the most controversial opinions out there. And if you do want to hear
mm,
our controversial opinions one day and we feel up to it, we might just do it. It won't happen or it won't be said today. But if you want to
mm,
know, let us know. We might do it one day.
it's a fun time.
Yeah.
Another show that has become recently super popular has been Jonathan's K Star Next Door.
Yeah.
It's basically idols going to a school,
Yeah, it's a school
and
setting, yeah.
it's just Jonathan roasting them for like 20-30 minutes.
Yeah, I'm
Nicely.
convinced. Yeah, sure, sure. It's a very fun way for them
Right.
to kind of take pokes at themselves
Right.
and yeah. I have I don't think it's a controversial opinion about this show, but I definitely feel a type of way about it. I think this show is Korea's equivalent of I have a black friend, so I can't be racist.
100%.
So I mean, Jonathan has a great personality. You know, he's from Congo, so I guess we should start by that. He's a Congolese man, but his family lives in Gwangju. Like, everyone. He's very much like acclimated to Korean culture and all those
Yeah.
things. So he's a wonderful host. He's really funny. He's very young. Like, honestly, he does
Very
really
young.
well for how young he is. It's impressive that he's able to hold his ground with all these like idols and stuff. And he's such a great MC for such a
Mm.
young age. But I really do think that this show is just like Korea's whole thing of like, no, but look, we have a black man on TV. We can't be racist.
Very much
And,
that.
whatever, it takes baby steps. And we are eventually going to see evolutions here. And Jonathan is a trendsetter in that regard.
Right. And it's not that they're making fun or making like racist comments. It's just they're
Right,
showing the
no.
one
Yeah,
black man in
literal.
South Korean culture that is
Literal.
accepted, pretty much.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. The
that's
token
it.
the token black
Yeah.
MC, token black man in
Right, right,
general,
right.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Another show that we are big fans of, except for, again, maybe one episode or
One
2,
episode.
one episode in particular, yeah, is Lee Service. So Moojin is an incredible singer. Like, he has
Mhm.
a very peculiar tone. You can tell he's just like classically trained. Like, his ear
Right.
is a literal actual machine. What comes out of his throat is literal, like, sounds from heaven. Like, his voice genuinely, I cannot gas it up enough because it's just that beautiful, that
Gorgeous.
good, and that peculiar. And he's really good at listening to other people and giving critique or feedback or, specific notes on what he hears in their
Right.
voices. So I really, really enjoy the show. I think Laura does as well. I think
Mm,
I've watched every episode of this show probably 2 or 3 times because I go back and watch them again because I forget what songs they sang or
right.
whatever the premise is. He calls it like a service because they do 2 to 3 songs. So the artist brings prepared 2 specific songs that they want to showcase their vocal talent with. Then there was also this thing at the beginning of the show where if they mentioned another song by name and they included the artist name, they had to also sing that song. He doesn't do that as much anymore because he asks a lot of questions about songs. And if he did that, they would be singing the entire actual episode. And
Right.
then at the end, they do a duet where he sings with them. And every time I'm just blown away. Like, this is a show that I sent to my dad because my dad is a big fan of like musical shows and he watches like The Voice in every country and every language. So I think, like, I was like, Dad, I think you really would enjoy the show. So I have sent him a couple of episodes and he's watching and he's like, damn, that guy's really good. Like, again, Mujin is every dad's dream of like a son.
Mm,
So he
yes.
has that appeal of like every idol that goes there is like, my dad loves you. And he's like, oh, thanks. So yeah, so there's that. But there is one episode that I'm pissed about and
Very.
also might save it for that controversial, unpopular opinions one day if I get really drunk or something and Laura is like, yeah, let's film it with like, her let's stir shit up attitude that
I'm
she has.
ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready. I
Yeah.
just need a little nudge, guys.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I need
So
a big nudge.
if you are interested in this, let us know because honestly, I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it.
Dangerous. Dangerous. I don't think everyone's ready to hear these things, but okay. We'll see.
With Mujin, another thing that I find kind of endearing about him is he's really awkward. So his style of emceeing is very awkward. And he's there because he's talented as a singer,
But
not
I
as an
but I
MC. But
right,
it's cute.
but it plays into it. It helps. For
Yeah,
some
yeah,
reason it
yeah,
helps.
yeah.
The one of the funniest I've watched the Jimin episode multiple times because it's
Yeah.
so fucking funny. Like, there's a moment where Moojin's just staring at him and he's like, I want to call you Oppa. And Jimin's like, what the fuck? And then at some point he like actually does it. Like, he's just staring at him and he's like, Oppa. And Jimin's like, oh, like, it's so funny. His awkwardness really is chef's kiss for this specific show because it's one of those like, genius people that are not really like all that great with the social. Like, it's exactly that, and it just works really well for the show.
One of our favorite Korean MCs is JJ.
Yeah.
And she has her own show, MMTG. What it stands for, don't ask me because I have no fucking clue. And I feel like her show is a little bit more close to the conventional Korean show you see on like TV.
Sure.
But she is so good at her job that it just creates a lot of really, really, really good moments.
Yes.
There's this one episode, she has done multiple episodes with Monsta X, but there's this
Mm-hmm.
one episode with Monsta X where they were outside because I think the pandemic or whatever. I mean the
Mm.
panini, whatever.
Mm.
And and at one point, I am stands to do like a dance and he falls on his face and it is chef's kiss.
It's
It's
so
so good.
cringe. It's
It's
so
so
cringe.
good.
It's so cringe.
He wanted to die. He wanted to jump off the building. Like he's supposed to be this really cool guy.
Yeah.
Then he falls. It was great. really
My
good.
favorite episode is the second episode that she did with TXT because at the beginning of the episode, she has a call with Bang PD and it's recorded on the show. And basically it was to say the first episode we recorded with them was really fucking boring because you guys didn't let us do shit with them. So are you actually going to let us do our job this time? And he's like, "Yes." Oh, right, bro. I fucking died.
That was
Like that goes back
amazing.
to what we were talking about the company trying to control everything. Because again, like BTS won't go on any variety shows at this point. They don't
Mm-mm.
have to. But TXT does have to get their own
Right.
like street cred. So they are going on these shows, but Hybe and Big Hit are being just as protective sometimes with them. And it's like, no, it's not gonna work if you do the same thing. And like, no. So that's my favorite. What that's one of my favorite moments. I think my favorite. No, I don't have a favorite episode. I have like a top five. I couldn't rank them,
Mhm.
but I really enjoyed the episode she did with Girls' Generation last year during their comeback for Forever One because she's again another one who like she's an actual fan and oh my God, she lived every fan fantasy in that episode that literally every fan of Girls' Generation could have ever had. She lived those moments. Like, and she knows every song from every group. She knows the choreos. She is completely unafraid, unabashed. Like, she's fucking wonderful. So I couldn't imagine like a better host for that show. And at some point, she gave us like a susto, like a scare that she was going to stop doing the show and
Mm.
like gonna move on to other things, but I think they just kind of they're evolving the show to make
Right.
it a little bit more long lasting because at some point the format gets tired, especially when
Right.
idols are coming for the third and fourth time on the show.
Right.
So like recently this past season she did an episode with TXC for their last comeback. And instead of doing like a regular episode with them, she spent 24 hours with them doing their promotions. The woman was exhausted and cranky. Like she's just like, "I'm not used to this shit." And she was trying to film the challenges with them. She couldn't remember the choreo. It was so funny, but like that was again another way that they are trying to just like spin things. And she's definitely getting paid way more now, which also is very deserved. You go get your bag, girl.
And you can also tell she's more popular because she has stopped dyeing her hair like
As
high,
red.
like red, Little Mermaid red,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cartoon version.
yeah.
Now she has a more like natural red color, which makes me think that she's more popular. It doesn't need to like color her hair a crazy color for people to recognize who she is.
Right. It's not a shtick anymore. She doesn't need that as a
Mm,
crutch. So agreed
it's
fully.
nice.
I miss the red though, but I am happy for her that she doesn't need to
Oh,
bleach the fuck out
100%.
of it as much. Yeah.
You know we live
That's
for
too
red
hard to
here.
maintain. Yeah,
Oof.
exactly. The next show that we want to talk about is Suga's Sujita, which stands for getting drunk with Suga, kind of basically. And that this show started last year. He started out of nowhere, did an episode with RM, fell off the face of the planet for a few weeks, and then came back and was like, "Oh, I'm actually doing the show for real now." And I really enjoy the show. Obviously, as a Sugar bias, I can't speak in an unbiased way here. I do think, bias aside, he does a really good job of talking to the musicians as a musician and
Mm,
gets to like the right questions that they will never be asked at another like regular variety show. So
right.
it's kind of like talking about US media, varieties, actors on actors interview kind of thing. So
Right.
he is talking to them in terms that they understand that they know. And I think artists are really excited when they go to his show because they know that he acknowledges the work that they put into it. So
Right.
I'm I've really enjoyed it. Even there was this one lady actress who went on his show who hasn't done a variety show in like 11 years. And they decided to promote with him, which is a huge honor. And Suga has always been a good MC, like from Run
Mm,
BTS days. Like we knew he could do MCing very well, but it's not even limited to musicians. He's done comedians, he's done actors, entertainers in general, and he's had multiple guests, just one guest. And the premise of the episode is to drink, but he's had a couple of guests, or at least one that wasn't drinking. So
yeah.
it's also not a requirement. So they talk over food and drinks,
Yeah.
and it's just really well done. I think it's
Yeah.
it's a really good format.
The purpose is not to get drunk like it is with Youngji's show. It's
Right.
more to just the guest brings their favorite drink and they start with that and food that goes with whatever drink they bought.
Yeah.
I do have to agree that he's a pretty good interviewer.
Mm.
He can ask the questions and creates like a nice flow in the conversation. And you don't see that many annoying cuts, which means to me that he does a pretty good job of keeping the flow. So,
Yeah, I do think that he's mentioned a couple of times that he records for about 2 hours and the episodes come out to be around 30 minutes. So there is obviously a lot more that is
right.
recorded than what comes out. But even with that, at least credit to the editors. It's edited
Yeah.
really well and it seems like it's a very easy going, flowing conversation. So yeah,
I've got that money.
if you got it, use it.
Flaunt it. Another idol who has had their own variety show, or who started their own variety show, is Bam Bam from Got7 with
Mm,
Bam's House. I didn't I like his show.
love.
He has a really good personality for entertainment.
Yeah,
And I think he is able to ask the questions and relate to his guest in like the idol level, because
yeah,
usually they're both idols.
yeah,
So it's a nice dynamic that you see. Recently I watched the episode that came out with 10 and the other one that came out with Jesse, and it was completely different vibes, but Bam Bam did such a good job of making it
yeah.
entertaining, even though both guests had completely different like attitudes and ways of going about the interview.
I think it's just one of those things where there's just people who are born a certain way and with
Yeah.
certain talents and skills, and things just either look good on them or they don't. And with Bam Bam, he can get away with asking specific questions that don't make people feel uncomfortable or that can be seen
Yeah.
as funny instead of intrusive. So I think that's kind of the magic of a show. Plus the fact that he does it in his own house. The first season was around like a beer that he was making that he was having everyone try. And the second season, he's making somtam, which is a papaya-based dessert that is very spicy and is from Thailand. And that's like the only thing that he says he knows how to cook. So that's what he makes for every guest. And at the end of the show, he makes them review it and leave like a certain amount of stars or whatever. So I have watched a lot of the episodes. Pretty much like if I know the person that he's interviewing, I have watched it. So he did
Yeah.
Key, he did Hwasa as the first guest of the season. He did Yeonjun, which was funny because he's done every interview like on the couch or on the floor, but when he did Yeonjun, he went to the table. So I think again, Hybe is fucking around with like what people can do on their shows. And it
Yeah.
was like a little bit more formal than the rest of them. But
It was. It
I think it
was.
was like important to me as like with my bias and my almost bias or bias wrecker in Got7 that they would get along. And like I need Yeonjun to like get out of the Hybe, control machine.
But even though it was more controlled than the other idols, I think he was still able to get some deep conversations out of
Yeah,
Yunjin without sticking to the same like cookie cutter questions.
I agree.
There came like a little bit of a controversial point during the interview because they started talking about the difference in treatments of boy groups and girl groups, and he was just talking about his own experience and how he felt, but
Yeah.
people just blew it up for no reason because that's what people do.
Well,
But I thought,
netizens.
well, yeah, and I thought it was nice to hear the perspective of an idol and how they view things, and not just from like a magazine or a K-poppy like us. So
Yeah.
I thought it was, even though it was a little bit more strict, like a little more
Boxy? Yeah.
if he was still able to get a good episode out of it.
I agree. I agree. And I do think that they probably became like friendly after like,
Yeah,
texting and things were better. They can hang out
right.
another day.
And the Jesse interview, there was a point where they started talking about artificial insemination, and it was so endearing to me because it Bam Bam came out looking a little ignorant,
A
but like
lot of ignorant. Yeah.
in a super endearing way. And
Yeah.
it amazed me that they didn't edit it out. They kept it because
Yeah.
that's just who he is and that's what he knew. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of like a teaching moment from Jesse to Bam Bam.
Yeah.
And it was cute that they kept it, because they could have definitely edited out and nobody would have been the wiser. So
Yeah, and I guess that's a good segue to go into the next show that we're covering, which is
mhm.
Jessie's show review. So the funny thing about her appearing on Bam Bam show is that the moment that the woman walked in, she took the reins, and that interview was not ran by
She
Bam
did.
Bam. That episode was ran by
Mm-mm.
Jessie, and it's because she has experience running a show. And so Jessie
He does.
Showderview was a show that ran from around like 2020 to 2021, 2022. I don't remember at this point when it
22, I
ended. Probably
mm,
because it did 80 episodes. So it was for
yeah,
around 2 years. So this was a show that started because of the panini. Jessie really couldn't do a lot of like artistic work during that time. So Psy put her in like literally every entertaining show, Korean variety show that he could find. And he got her to host Shoulder View. For us, who came in probably around like the halfway point of that show, we thought it was hers. And then we really fell in love with the show. Her irreverence is legendary in Korea. They're not used to a
amazing.
personality like hers. Here in the US, she'd have a little bit of a harder time standing out because
Yeah.
there's a plenty of loudmouths and
Mm,
irreverent people to go around.
yeah,
And Jessie, she really kind of got to Korea at the right time. And I think
yeah,
she's shaping a lot of the conversation around female empowerment and self-love and body positivity and being real and saying things as they should be said and not being so polite and quiet. She really, I think, is making an impact there. But then she was kind of done with the entertainment circle and she wanted to focus on her artistry. So she left Shoulder View, or I guess she went on hiatus. And then the show decided to keep going without her. And then they put in Sunmi in her place. Sunmi is someone else who is seen as an irreverent person in South Korea, but not even like a tenth of the way that Jessie is irreverent. So I didn't stick around to watch Shoulder View with Sunmi. I think I tried watching a couple of episodes when like 80s was on or something, but I wasn't as entertained. And so I really do think Shoulder View producers dropped the ball big time with letting Jessie go. Cause I think, and a lot of fans in the comments when she left were like, we thought this was Jessie's show. We
right.
thought this was made by her, for her, with her, and you couldn't do it without her. So the viewership numbers on Shoulder Review have dropped dramatically since Jessie left.
Because I think with the change in MCs, it became a more Korean show in a
Mhm.
sense, more Korean culture.
Yeah.
So if you're an international fan, you don't really relate to it so much. So I think that's why all the views drop because a
Yeah.
lot of Jesse's fans are international.
Correct.
So that's kind of where that show is going. And the questions that she was asking and the way that the flow of the program was very international, not very
Correct.
Korean at all.
And she got the opportunity to interview Emma Stone when she was promoting Cruella,
She
which was
did.
another like huge big moment for Jessie, which is something that Sunmi just wouldn't have been able to do no matter how,
Right.
good at English in general she is. It's just not the same.
Right. And in this show, also, artists, idols, actors came on it sometimes without needing to
Yeah.
really show anything. They just wanted to come
Yeah.
because they wanted to be interviewed by Jesse. I
Yeah.
remember when who was it? Kim Johan from Way went on. He didn't have anything to show. Like there was no comeback. He had like he had nothing going on. And he just showed up because he wanted to and she wanted to and
Yeah, and Jessie also flirted a lot with a lot of the people who went on her show, and it
iconic.
was so fun and just like
Iconic.
it's so refreshing. Like it really is. It was such a refreshing show. I miss Jessie Shoulder Review a lot, like a lot,
Yeah.
like a lot, like a lot.
There was this one episode that she did with these three actors that were promoting a movie.
Mm,
And there was one actor that she was like, oh, oh,
slobbering,
oh. She asked them
slobbering.
all if they were married in a relationship. And I think it was the only one that said, oh, no, I'm single. And she's like, let me get at it.
Shoot my shot 2022. Let's go.
You
Yeah.
know, if nothing happened, I'd be really surprised.
Honestly, yeah, I
Mm,
hope it did for her and for him both because they were hot
both. Oh, yeah.
together.
Mm,
Lovely.
beautiful.
From Jesse's Shoulder View, which again is no longer on air, sadly, we move on to Uncha's Star Diary. So Uncha is a magnate of Le Seraphim. She's my daughter. I gave birth to her. You can look up the paperwork. It's a joke. And she is so freaking cute and so talented and so perfect. But then she started this show, I don't know why. In her journey as a music bank host, she said, like the premise of the show, the way that they sold it is like She wanted to meet more people and make more friends in the idol industry. We know, of course, this is a ploy from the channel to just get more views and get more
Mhm.
content in their building. As idols spend countless hours in the green room, let's
Right,
make money out of this moment. That's
right.
really what it is. So Euncha has done at this point, I think she's around like 20 episodes in, or maybe a
Yeah,
little bit
something like that.
more. The first episode was so painful to
Iconic,
watch.
iconic.
It
Oh,
was
it's so good.
the pain, the cringe, the awkwardness.
I love it.
I don't think I've recovered, but I'm very proud of her for getting better and, learning and stuff, but her and Kai, girl.
I watched her episode with Kai and with the boys
Mm.
more than once. The awkwardness, you can cut it with a knife and it was
Yeah,
delicious. Like it was everything I wanted and more. She's so cute that
she's
even when it's
adorable.
like disgustingly awkward, it's just so cute.
Yeah. And there was another episode more recently than the Kai one, because I think when Kai went, he was promoting Rover, of course, and then EXO went when they were
Oh,
promoting Cream Soda and all their
so
other
cute.
songs that came out now with Exist. And that was Baekhyun and Schumann and Chanyeol,
Mhm.
and they were really good about like accommodating her and her shyness and whatever. But like from the beginning, they were like, Schumann, she's literally half your age, and like just roasting the shit out of him for being an older member.
His face when they said that, like
Yeah.
he didn't believe their math that they did. So
Yeah.
you could tell he was doing the math. And as soon as like it clicked that she was actually half his age,
Yeah.
his face went from like calculating to oh
Oh,
fuck.
fuck.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, very
And
that.
at that moment, I also realized that she's not my Schumann is a 90,
Well, I was a young
90
mother.
liner.
I was a young mother, so,
And it hit me it hit me hard. Like, I know she's younger, but, like, when they put it that way, it was like, "Oh, god. Alright."
That was so funny. Yeah. So yeah, so it's really, really, really cute. She's interviewed a lot of different idols whenever they have passed through. I think the most comfortable interviews obviously are the ones with Hype idols that she's
Yeah,
crossed paths with in the building a little bit more. She did a couple of episodes with Le Sserafim members, so obviously those were, very easy
yeah.
episodes to shoot. And she's interviewed some of her friends, so that's also been fun to watch. But it's just really cute. Like the whole premise of it is like a little picnic indoors with like a blanket and little stuffed toys to cover them and their skirts and their little skimpy skirts that they wear in K-pop, even though they have like 6 shorts under the skirts. And so, yeah, it's a really cute show, and I'm happy that it's happening. I don't know what will happen when she's no longer a host of Music Bank, but whatever. In the meantime, I'm glad the network is doing something with her
Yeah.
and
She's
exploiting her
so
potential.
cute. She's
Yeah,
so cute. Literally,
I know. I know. My cute little daughter. And she's so good too. And like learning the dances and doing them. Like she's perfect. She's like the perfect K-poppy turned idol. So
and
love that for
she's
her.
gorgeous.
Oh my God.
Like, when she becomes an adult,
She's a doll.
like, because you know how like people's faces change a little bit as like we
Mm-hmm.
grow, after a certain age it's not good, but like when you go from teenager to like 20 something, the face changes for like women, and like
Yeah.
it just does like this thing. Ugh,
She's so
like,
cute. Yeah, she's gonna be even more stunning than she already is because she's a
mhm,
actual little porcelain doll.
it's true.
So from her Star Diary, we also wanted to talk about Monsta X because last year we did an episode on Starship where we roasted the fuck out of Starship for not doing content for Monsta X. And then the Monsta X members, at least 5 out of 6, renewed their contracts with Starship, which they're too good for Starship, really. But whatever. Let's just be happy that they're still
Fine.
together and that they didn't disband and that they're still, going forward. But I do believe genuinely that part of the like things that the members asked for in order to sign with them again was to do variety content because they
Right.
know that that's a really important part of the fan experience and that if they're not in front of fans' faces, they can't get
They'll be
fans
forgotten.
correct. So it took a little bit, but they started a couple of shows actually. look at Starship getting their shit together with multiple things. So first they started with Momoko. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry.
Jesus Christ.
But like the members named it themselves. I watched every single episode of the show. It is so unhinged. It is so little produced. There's been episodes where like the producers are heard saying like this is all we planned for the episode, and like the members are literally going just off of their wit and like their relationship. And Shonu was in the military still when the show started. So when he joined halfway through, he's like, but where's the script? And the producer's like, what script? So, you know, I don't want to give Starship too much credit because again, the production is not all there. But with that or without that, the show is still highly entertaining. And that's like just exclusively to the credit of the members of Monsta X. They did the show as long as they could until Minhyuk, Kihyun, and now Hyungwon are all enlisting. So they weren't able to do any more episodes. But like when I watched the last episode, I didn't know it was the last episode and I was heartbroken. I still haven't gotten over it. Girl, it hurt my heart. But again, Starship got their shit together and they were like,
Yeah.
okay, we don't have all of them anymore. But they did launch the subunit of Shonu and Hyungwon. So they did a little cute travel show with them where they had a few guests and stuff like that. And then they did another show with just Hyungwon, which is called Cheshi Pyolyugi, which means Mr. Che the Castaway or something like that. And it's just him
So cute.
traveling throughout Korea. The first episode, he's like, well, in order to go forward and like know who you are, you need to know your roots. So he went to visit his uncle and aunt that live in like a very small island that he hasn't seen in 20 years. He hasn't been there in 20 years. He hadn't seen them in 20 years. Like this was a clash. And this man like shows up after buying some clothes and some random little like a rest area shop somewhere that like the salesman picked for him this like camel situation that did not match at all what he was wearing. It was so adorable. And he's just, talking to his uncle and his aunt. And it was just really cute to see him like going back on his roots. And then he had Jonghan because Jonghan from 17 is obviously obsessed with Hyungwon,
Obviously.
like painfully, ridiculously, like it's so funny, so cute. And then Jonghan, if you've seen Going 17 or any content with like more than 5 minutes of Jonghan just not being scripted, he's chaotic and unhinged. So because of him, Hyungwon ended up going bungee jumping, which is funny because most idols did their bungee jumping at the beginning of their careers as like
Right,
a
right.
way to like get people's attention.
Yeah.
But with Monsta X, he wasn't the one that had to do the bungee jumping at the beginning, so he had never done it. And he's a scaredy cat. But with Jonghan, he ended up going bungee jumping because they went to this park and they had other activities like a sling or whatever, but it had like rained or something had happened. They're like, the only thing that's open is a bungee jump. And it was so funny. Like the show is very unscripted. You can tell. You can see just like the production behind the scene. This is actually not produced by Starship. It's produced by another
Mm.
company called Him. And I can appreciate what they're doing because they do have their shit kind of together. I think they're still kind of relying on Hyungwon too much because he's just the talent. Like he's just
Right.
supposed to like show up, but like they're relying on the concepts, the guests, and everything like with him. Which I mean, the guests also I like because obviously he wants to be
Right.
comfortable with the person that he's talking to. But the episode with Subin was amazing. The
So cute.
episode with they had an episode where he just like hung out with a producer, went to see like the sunrise, and they went to eat like clams by the beach. And then they were trying to do annoying things on purpose or things that annoyed him. It's like a trend. So that they had seen like how to make a heart in the sand to put your phone in and then take a picture of you like so the heart shows. It's so stupid. Like honestly, like some really pointless stuff. He had a beautiful episode with Sanha from Astro, which like gave me all the comfort that I needed this year after everything Astro has been through, and Sanha specifically. We've been worried sick about him, and
Yeah.
just seeing him be okay with a Hyung of his, Hyungwon in the show, and they called Nu during the show too. So like we got even that. Like it's just really good. It's really good, raw, organic, natural material. He did an episode with Lee Dong-wook, the actor,
Mhm.
recently because I think they're under the same company. I don't know if he's with Starship or what, but they kind of
I
talk like they
think he
were.
is.
So that was a really, really funny episode for anyone who's like into K dramas and likes Itonwok. Like
He
it's
has a good personality. Like
it was
he's funny
very
without
funny.
trying.
It was very funny. I was surprised actually how close they were because I thought Hyungwon was gonna be way more awkward with him, but it wasn't awkward at all. I mean, like it was, but it wasn't. It was hard to explain.
I think Kyungwon just has that personality where he looks like he's very shy and awkward, but once he like
Let's
opens up
go.
just a little bit, he's
Yeah.
perfect. Like with Youngji, it was they had never really met each other and it
Yeah.
was one of the better episodes. So
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and his episode with Subin too, like they hadn't really talked like much outside of whatever interactions they might have had in TV stations. So yeah, I think they definitely like kept each other's numbers, and there was a whole thing
oh
about
my
how he saved Subin's
god.
number in his phone. And so they're very similar. So it's like hard for similar people to become friends, but I
Yeah,
do think
yeah.
that they did. They had a really, really heartwarming, touching conversation about what being an idol is like and those burdens. So
So does that mean that Hyungwon chose Subin?
yeah,
Is that his TXT bias? Because my
I think
guy, I
so.
feel you. I
They
feel
they
you.
talk the entire time about how like
Oh,
people
so
on both camps have told them
cute.
that they're so similar. And so like that's kind of where that started. And it
So
was the whole
cute.
episode was cute. There's just like all these things that happen like the when they went to buy the tickets to the well, first of all, they were going to this park this one day because it was the only day that it was forecasted that it wasn't going to rain. It rained.
Mm.
And then they show up and then they're buying the tickets. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like the production is very like bootleg in some ways because like they're showing them buying the tickets. And then the ticket lady is like, if you buy with this bank card, you get a coupon. And Suwon's like, I have that card. And Hyungwon's like, no, we have like a card from the show that the show is paying. And Suwon's like, no, we're going to get the discount. So it's really funny to see like idols being frugal and stuff like that. But this is where the bootlegness of the production actually plays into
Helps.
having
Right.
really good moments in the show. So anyway, there's so much content to watch for Monsta X while they're gone to the military now. So please watch it so that they can get a lot of ad revenue, and when they come back, they can have a lot of money for their next comeback. Please.
And then also, aside from the shows that we've been talking about recently, again, not that recently, since maybe the 2020, Spotify and Netflix have also joined the variety show game.
Mm,
So obviously, Netflix is based on new K dramas that they want to promote. And Spotify is based on idols who are having a comeback. And it's just like games and they win things. It's very cute. Obviously, they have a shit ton of money to make and produce it well.
yeah.
And it helps with promoting whatever drama or artist that is having a comeback.
It's a
I've
very good
watched,
strategy. Like
yeah,
they promote the comeback and then they make sure that people are listening on Spotify because
right.
Melon is such a big platform in Korea. So they're trying to
Right.
grow, and I think it's working for them really
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I've seen a couple of the videos for some of the later or latest comebacks.
Hmm.
And they're pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And that kind of segues into, I guess, the difference between Korea and the US in terms of variety shows
Hmm.
and how they're used.
Yeah.
Because so for the US, late night TV, I don't think would be considered a variety show because I think late night TV is considered like the genre,
Hmm.
but it is like a variety show,
Technically, very
right?
technically, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think there were variety shows at some point, and a
There
couple
were.
of years ago, Maya Rudolph tried to do a variety show like how they used to do back in like the 80s, but it never picked up. It
Mm,
didn't like pick up steam. So the US obviously has its own like palette of flavors and tastes and things that they like. And late night TV is king when it comes to entertainment. Now that
right.
Oprah and Dr. Phil are no longer on air in the afternoons.
Even though late night TV has seen a decline
Yeah.
in viewership and in interest from like the public in general,
Yeah.
it's still there though. It's kind of like daytime TV. It's just new shows and new hosts have appeared,
Yeah.
especially for daytime TV. For late night, it's still kind of the same.
And they're capitalizing on digital consumption as well
There,
because they put all their clips on YouTube as soon as they air on in
right?
real time. And this they announced just this week or last week that now after Colbert, there's gonna be a new show hosted by Taylor Tomlinson that is gonna be like the new woman in late night. So,
Mm,
there's you can see that they're trying to evolve and cater to more people, and so it's not all white men
right.
across the board.
And one of the ways that they tried to cater to this new wave or this new generation was including some of those like game shows or game segments
Mm-hmm.
into the show. Jimmy Fallon and James Corden were the ones that really like
Leaned in.
leaned into this. But for the most part, they have kind of like died. People's attention was there for a little bit and then bye.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, Corden's out of air already at this
Right.
point, but we know segments like Carpool Karaoke and the Crosswalk Broadway show
Right.
situation where like one of the most popular segments. And I think all of these shows, the first idols that came on were BTS for most all of them.
Right.
Jimmy Fallon really capitalized on BTS during the Panini in 2020. He had a whole week worth of shows with appearances of
Right.
them performing at different venues in South Korea. So yeah, they definitely have tried to insert the K-pop narrative into late night and stuff, and I'm sure there's a bunch of late night watchers that are like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
And so, but that's been their entry point to American TV
Right.
in a way. It's been late night, it's been some of the morning shows like Good Morning America,
Yeah.
some of the daytime TV like Kelly Clarkson's show. She had on like twice. She had Eric Nam on recently. So you can definitely tell that they are seeing the potential for capitalizing on engagement and capturing Gen Z. Like that's obviously the goal.
Even Despierta America had NCT at one point.
Well, yeah, yeah.
How?
They
Why?
came in 2019 apparently. We
Pero
were
ahí
not
estaban.
around. Yeah, they were there dancing. Whatever genre they were thinking that they were dancing is what they were dancing.
They're so cute.
They
I
are
love them.
adorable. Yeah.
But as with Korean entertainment, I think the reigning variety shows or the reigning, let's call it comeback, no,
Mm,
no, promotional shows for like TVs and musical artists that have really reigned king in the last couple of months, years have been on YouTube.
yeah.
One of them is Hot Ones, the one where they
Yeah.
really spicy chicken wings and
Yeah.
talk about whatever it is that they're promoting aside from
Yeah.
like their lives and stuff.
Yeah.
Um and recently another chicken related show has also become super popular, which is Chicken Shop Date, where it's again artists coming to promote drops, movies, all that kind of stuff.
But
I
it's
want
cool
chicken.
because both shows have like new and innovative formats. Like I think people have gotten
Mm,
tired of the regular press junkets that artists used to
yeah,
do back in the day. And now that there's no TRL and that MTV does not actually play music in their
right,
television, it's kind of like the only way that they can have any sort of content here for their promotional stuff. So
right,
yeah, YouTube is king at the end of the day with all of the content because whether it's done for TV or not, it ends up on YouTube and it ends up
right.
on TikTok and it ends up being consumed digitally, especially by the majority of the Gen Z fans and millennials too,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, we tend to have a short attention span. So when things are put into a small package and that is easy to consume, we fall
Go
hard.
for it. Yeah, it just
So
makes sense.
it really does. It really, really does. So I guess with that, we're done.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you
guys
so
for
much.
listening.
We had a great time. And
Yeah.
don't forget to check out Kathy's blog.
Yeah, if you wanna know what I think the top 10 BTS Run BTS episodes are, definitely take a look. And I'm sorry that they're not just 10 episodes because
No,
it's
you're
not my
blessing
fault.
people with good content. Don't
It's
be
not my fault
sorry.
that they did four
Be
parters and
sorry.
two parters and three parters. Like
Be
it's
sorry.
one episode in my head because they recorded it in one day. So not my fault. Yeah,
It's very true.
definitely enjoy and let us know how you feel about Korean TV shows and Korean
Yeah.
variety shows if you got sucked in just as we did. Because for me now, watching Western TV is a very different experience and I find it kind of
Boring.
boring.
Mm.
So Korean TV definitely got me good, girl. So let
Ooh.
us know if you too.
And if you want that episode with our very unpopular opinions, let us know. I am all ears. I am here to help our dreams come true.
Or to get us canceled, whatever happens first.
We'll see.
Thank you guys for listening, and see you all next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the MIA2K podcast. We have lots of great content coming up ahead, so please don't forget to follow and subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you enjoyed our episodes, please rate us 5 stars.
And for the real-time tea, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook by searching for @MIA2K Podcast. Dale. Bye.